Welcome back to Used to Sew, a podcast about vintage sewing machines, sewing history, and sewing culture in the past and present. I am your producer and co-host, Aradia, daughter of your main host, T.R. Kelly, who is here today to talk to you about interacting with you, our lovely fans, via YouTube comments and emails. Also, the Boye commodity cabinet, archived sewing machine websites, and the coveted Singer 48K. This episode is about items that TR has never seen, mainly. The Boye commodity cabinet sounds delightful, even if I have no need for one. I am that much of a sucker for storage solutions that are neat and tidy. We do spend a lot of the first chunk of the episode talking about how ads are inserted and what kind of letters we've gotten recently, but once we get into needles and decals, we are fully engaged in the kinds of dusty details that keep you lovely people coming back week after week.
Woo! Another beautiful summer day here in Oregon.
The first summer day of the year.
Oh, yeah. I don't exactly know the difference between astronomical, civil, and nautical twilight. I think astronomical twilight is the very first photons you can see in the morning. I mean, I can see them. 3 o'clock in the morning here.
Wow.
And there's visible sunlight in the sky, twilight, until 11 o'clock at night. That's 4 hours of complete darkness only.
Yeah, we are in, as I call it, the brightest bright, the absolute peak of the brightest bright. Today, tomorrow, it's all going to be, yesterday, today, tomorrow, all about basically the same. And then it starts to get darker again. Then we start to be on the other side of the brightest bright. And then it's several more weeks before you start to really feel it in your bones. But
yeah, I feel it around Lunasad, Lammas, 1st of August. I start feeling that the sun is radically lower now. Then there's this certain quality to the light that lets you know.
In about 6 weeks.
Yeah, exactly. The pagan holidays, equinoxes, solstices, and cross quarters. And they're actual holidays that have
quite relevant.
These are holidays that have to do with what's happening in the sun, not what's happening in the church or the politics or whatever. For you geo nerds, we're at 44 degrees north latitude if you want to get out your globes and flashlights and see exactly what our twilight looks like. And since I'm currently out here in the desert, Eastern Oregon, which is one of the darkest places in the United States, I can see that first photon. I sense that there's the sun. It's coming up. I can feel it. I'm not going to... And then you start seeing the glow like a half an hour later. But anyway, since it's been hot here during the day, I'm making sure I get up for that twilight glow. Yeah, and getting up for that twilight glow and going and checking our socials and emails. I'm getting better at that. Oh, I'm going to be 64 years old on Friday. Us Gen X kids went from cursive to YouTube. And I'm still trying to keep up. I know that when something is good, it slaps. And when something isn't so great, it's mid. Okay, there, I'm hip. I'm cool.
Excellent. Excellent.
I got to keep up with you kids. So I was over here at YouTube. Oh, yeah, I should look at the comments. Okay, how do I get our page? Wow, thank all of you for making comments on the videos. I went through and tried to answer and respond to as many as I could. We have 233 subscribers on YouTube, 17 just in the last month.
Wow.
Thank you so much. If you don't know how YouTube works, if we get to 1,000 subscribers, then they start paying us money or something like that.
Then we can monetize with the ads and stuff and make a, 1/10 of a cent per view or whatever Spotify ridiculousness that works out to.
Oh, yeah. I actually have 2 friends that make their entire living from YouTube. One of them is a amateur radio guy, ham radio, because there's always a huge amount of topics there too. Everything from what's happening socially to how to build this latest cool thing. And so the niche podcasts, I think we might not have the hugest following, but I think we have some of these comments just darn near make me cry. They're just
that's sweet.
Oh my gosh, thank you. I'm not the only one who's wacko about sewing machines and stuff. It's like, no, you're not alone.
It's one of the good things about the internet. The internet was mostly a mistake, but allowing niche hobbyists to find each other and know that you're not the only one who's gone that far down a particular rabbit hole. That is one of the good things about the internet that makes it not a complete mistake.
You said rabbit hole. Now I'm going to go back to last time we recorded last week's episode, and I was flailing and railing on the word workhorse.
Yes, you were.
What the hell is rabbit hole? It's the same kind of thing. Okay, so I take back every cranky thing I said about workhorse. Workhorse is shorthand for, as we found out, is a plain thing that can work hard. You know, originally a farm horse as opposed to a riding horse, a fancy horse, a carriage horse. So a rabbit hole is not an actual rodent hole in the ground. It's side quest is another thing, but you know what it means. But so I guess we have to invent these little shorthand words for stuff. Engulfed, skyrocketing, workhorse, rabbit hole.
I mean, somewhere between idiom and metaphor and shorthand, these things can be helpful.
Language evolves, always. Let's try to read something from the American Revolution. The spellings are not consistent. The way words are used is like, what? And then even like for us Yanks to try to read old stuff from the UK, even new stuff from the UK, people who are just kind of regular working class folks like me, we might use a lot of slang or have a weird accent or whatever. But you can tell I'm not AI.
Oh my God. I picked up A Clockwork Orange, the book, the other day,
Ooh.
randomly. And I was like, this is literally 2/3 gibberish. This makes no sense. And then someone pointed out, well, do you know British slang from the 1960s? No. Well, then that's going to be part of your problem, is because a lot of what's going on there is that the author made up a bunch of words and slang, but it's all riffing off of a completely foreign set of slang in the first place to my ear. So it's like, yeah, no, it's not going to work. It's not going to work. You have to know at least one or two things about British slang in order to begin to follow where the author did make up stuff and add new things, because it's a weird futuristic book.
I'm somewhat of an Anglophile, so I'm fascinated by watching videos, not of football for football's sake, but football when they interview fans, when they talk to fans, and they're just regular dudes and just listening to all the slang and the accents and stuff. We got one comment on YouTube that was saying, this podcast needs visuals. And yeah, okay. Until we get 1,000 subscribers and can monetize to hire somebody to do that, it's not going to happen.
Or until I decide to overcome my firm reticence to doing video content. I don't want to create it, but part of me does want to, and I keep kicking that part down because I don't need another creative hobby time suck obsession. I just don't.
No, with everything else I do with my life, devoting an hour or 2 or 3 a week to a podcast already, that's about as much as I can do. So if somebody wants to volunteer, or no, I don't want volunteers. I want us to be able to pay. A lot of my favorite podcasters have a crew that works on putting together the visuals and all that stuff. We're just not there yet. I do hear your frustration, but also when we do go visual, you will not see us.
That's true.
You'll see my hands, but I really don't like watching people talk, especially myself.
Well, thank you to everyone on YouTube for engaging with our content and making comments and listening to us ramble. It's really cool to know that you're out there and representing all the people who don't make comments. Really appreciate it.
There's a maxim in advertising that 2% a return on what you put out as far as engagement with people. If 2% of your audience is engaging with you, that's considered very successful. So
yeah,
even those of you who aren't subscribers and you just pop in once in a while, thank you for just being here. Like what a couple of letters said, I had no idea there was people into old sewing machines. I thought I was the only one. It's like, dude, welcome to the club.
Yes, there are dozens of us. Dozens,
damn it. 233 on YouTube. I'm having a hard time getting into the Patreon page. So if we have any comments there, I've not been able to address that yet. It's the whole password hell. And
I don't think we've had any comments there. I do post our episodes there for the ad-free feed. I have no idea how many people are engaging with that, but it is there. And if anyone ever subscribes and wants to go back and listen to all the old episodes without ads, that exists as a back catalog in Patreon.
I don't know what kind of ads you guys are getting served. I always listen to the feed with the ads just because I want to see what who, I don't know who decides on those, but we're getting way too many stupid casino ads again.
Chumba.
Yeah, Spin Quest, and there's a bunch of American Independence Day stuff on there. But
it basically works like a first come, last serve kind of thing. Basically, we're the lowest tier of advertising on I've seen this visual of like a pyramid of the different styles of ads, where the most expensive is where the host reads an ad into the podcast, and the least expensive is just what we have, these little spots that are just open for anyone to buy and put stuff in. And so we'll tend to get the last bids, the very last of people's budgets, the very weakest and weirdest companies, and the leftovers. We kind of are the leftovers bin. We're the least valuable kind of advertising.
Wow.
And so sometimes it'll be like national parks. Like I've literally heard ads for go out into a forest. Sometimes there won't be ads because no one wanted to buy that slot.
Weird.
But yeah, waves of casino ads is a thing I have experienced on podcasts where I'm washing the dishes and I can't skip the ads on other shows. And yes, waves of casino ads are definitely a thing.
Because, once in a while we get stuff that I think is kind of relevant to what our audience might be into, which is ads for Granger Mechanical Supply Services, and we've even had some ads in Espanol for car parts and stuff. So it's like, all right.
Yeah, it's the great big black box of Nielsen advertising. They're the ones that do the algorithms for what ads should get served to what people where, how expensive is this slot at this time. It's very dynamic, and we just provide little pins in our episodes that the advertisers can buy into. And so it really waxes and wanes depending on where they want their money to go and stuff.
Stuff like this is why I never got famous in music, because I just like to play guitar, man. Learning all that other stuff. And there's this podcast. I came to you with this podcast idea just because I'm an autistic person with a special interest, and my husband got tired of listening to me blab about sewing machines. So that's where this podcast got started. I never expect to make any more money off of this than I do off of my original song catalog, which is about $100 a year.
Yeah, I have started and been part of multiple podcasts at this point, and they are all labors of love that make me just enough money to afford streaming services. They are.
Yeah.
The way that I approach podcasting is about lived experiences and special interests, and I'm a bad capitalist. I just want to make things that make me happy and that make people in the world feel seen and included, and that is not a way to pay the mortgage, turns out.
No. The only time I ever made money playing music was being in hotel cover bands, playing other people's stuff. Aside from that one period in the 1990s where, we're semi-famous. But anyway. In addition to Patreon and YouTube, we also still get good old-fashioned email.
We do. I saw some alerts coming in over the weekend.
Oh, yeah. So this is our longtime contributor here who always has something fun to talk about. This is Patricia May Anthony up in Albany, Oregon. She's the one who gave us the little bit about the Seattle seamstresses.
Ooh, yeah.
So here's her letter for today. Hi, TR and Radio. Just now listened to the podcast about quilts, and I wondered if quilts in American history, and wonder if you are aware of the recent passing of Tim Totten. Tim was a remarkable person who, among other things, started a business for the funeral industry called Final Embrace. He made quilts with clothing or fabrics related to the deceased as remembrances for the family or as a covering for the deceased inside or outside the casket, including cremation.
Wow. No, I did not know about him. That's amazing.
No, I'm definitely going to look him up. He hosted a Facebook group called Shiny Crafty People that was known for inclusivity.
And Shiny Crafty People. Okay, that's kind of twisted.
I do like that. And one enduring feature of that group was that his how-to videos were very organic, with all the boo-boos and miscalculations left in. I love that.
Aww.
Slubs and variations are part of the fabric kind of thing. Tim's Final Embrace business was of interest to me because in some families it is still customary to include a quilt in the casket. I included a string quilt made by my mother with strips of fabric from family clothing in her casket. It is common in some families to make such quilts well in advance of the person's passing, and I think I read or heard somewhere that either the Amish or the Mennonites start these quilts when a person is born. Not sure about that, but is rolling around in my head. Some hospitals have volunteer groups that gift quilts to family members who are passing to accompany that person or to be shared with the family. Best as always, Patricia. And then she goes on with another email here.
That is such a fascinating little quilts into death.
Oh, I know
into
it.
the present day. Wow.
And then she considered in another email here. Another thing about quilts is that my paternal grandmother made exquisite quilts entirely by hand, and it was very clear in talking with her that quilts were never to be made from purchasing or receiving new fabric.
Boom.
I've thought this myself. Every quilt she made was often made with the tiniest of scraps sewn together to make one very small patch in a larger, intricate quilt design. For example, wedding ring quilts that are made with small, slightly curved squares were frequently tiny pieces that were hand-pieced to make those squares. That's like that bag of ones you gave me.
Yeah,
Tiny
yeah.
pieces.
That one that I got from a random estate sale grab bag of stuff. Yeah, yeah.
I'm still working on that. She had a large bag of pieced flour sack that held a huge tumble of pieces of fabric, mostly worn-out clothing. There was much storytelling as the contents of the bags were turned out and sorted, either just for fun or for color sorting for the next quilt. That sounds, I could just picture that. To take this a little further, my late mother was adamant that purchasing new fabric to make a quilt and using rotary cutters were absolutely not acceptable, and in fact were an insult to the women who historically used tiny scraps to sew quilts by hand. And that included some real dislike of modern polyester batting material. In her family, worn-out quilts and blankets were used as batting.
Uh-huh. Always be recycling. Always be upcycling.
In her family, worn-out quilts and blankets were set between the fancy side of the quilt and the backing that was also pieced from old clothing or flour sacks. Long pieces of yardage, or even worse, modern wide yardage for making backing all in one piece, an abomination. She did eventually use sheets or pieced together yardage, but resisted buying fabric new. What was acceptable was using leftover fabric from a garment, but even there was a little bit of cheating by way of purchasing more than was needed for the new garment, just in case. On an OPB, public television began hosting quilt programs. So here's Grandma watching these quilt programs. She can be heard complaining loudly about the shows featuring exacting quilt designs made with brand new, perfectly matched fabric. And more loud complaining when the shows did not feature the hand-embroidered quilts featuring the flowers of the states or kitties or puppies.
Oh, my God.
Over the years, I heard the same concerns about women quilters being offended and forgotten with the new quilting that was cheating and not real quilting from her longtime friends, all who have now passed. There were a few times when I unexpectedly read similar opinions on social media platforms, but I've lost track of those people.
Old woman yells at cloud. That's you kids get off my lawn with your damn rotary cutters.
So again, thank you, Patricia May in Albany. Your little tidbits of sewing history and sewing culture that you write us about are really, really fun. And we encourage all of you to write to us, even if it's just you want to tell about your grandma's sewing machine or the first, whatever you want. We love hearing from you because, like we've said, there's just not that many of us. I feel like we have a little club here,
Oh, yeah. This is the coolest of cool kid clubs. It's very, very exclusive.
We're that little crazy garage band nobody's ever heard of, and we only play twice a year. And everybody's like, yeah, you gotta go see them, man. They're gonna be cool.
No, I love feeling like I'm part of I'm learning more about quilting. I'm learning more about the oral tradition pass along of quilting stuff. I'm learning about quilting by engaging with our audience. That's neat.
This is, as I was reading this letter, a whole flood of stuff came back to me. When I was 10, we left Oregon under bad circumstances and moved in with my grandma in Missouri. And there's no nice way to put it. They were really poor. But it's fun to go to auctions and yard sales and stuff, right? I mean, entertainment if nothing else. So I remember we went to this auction. It was in a big barn. It was a really hot day. The cicadas were just screaming. And at the end, there was this cardboard box with a bunch of quilts in it. I could see that. And they sold it to my grandma for $1. $1. Wow. We took them home and there was 5 of them. And Grandma said, well, Tracy Ray, you want to have one of these? You can pick out one you want. So I picked out one that was a crazy quilt, which is all kind of odd fabrics sewn together, all kind of different ways. There's no discernible pattern to it at all. The back of it was pieced flour sacks. The internal stuff was cotton, fluffy cotton. So that was like just actual cotton, and it hadn't been batted or anything. It was just kind of matted in there. We were really poor then too. That became my bedspread because it was heavy. I like heavy things. I like heavy blankets. And it was pretty, and there was no pattern. I could just stare at it for hours. And finally, I started fixing it. I'd see little rips and things, so I'd get out my embroidery floss and add my own craziness to it. In one of my moves, I lost it, and it's one of the textiles that I never have gotten attached to any of my guitars, but there's textiles that live in my mind forever. And curtains from when I was a little kid in L.A. But quilts. The other one of the other ones was a simple tied quilt, not sewn at all, just tied. That one was perceived as not being very valuable, so we used it for a cover for the engine in the car when it got really cold, and it worked great.
It needed a blanket too.
Yeah. So when I started quilting myself, it was because I loved that quilt bedspread thing that Grandma had bought for 20 cents, and so I said, well, I want to make some stuff. And I didn't know that there was quilting, like what she's talking about with rotary cutters, quilt chops, all that. I just bought some fabric and started sewing it together, and I made a few crazy quilts. Well, what are you going to put inside? I didn't even know batting existed, so I usually put like an old army blanket inside my quilts, again, because I like heavy, and then a sheet on the back. Really basic grid quilting by machine, which always turned out terrible, but functional. My points didn't well, there weren't any points. I wasn't making patterns. I was just making crazy blocks. But yeah, the idea of buying brand new expensive fabric, cutting it up into little pieces, sewing it back together with very expensive sewing machines.
It's disrespectful to the entire tradition that our grandmothers built. I get the vibe.
But then some people will say, no, this is an evolving art form. And that's, for instance, in China, where quilting got started really early, it was new fabric because they were using quilting to layer together silk and batting to make armor, of all things.
Yeah, you do want new material for that.
Yeah, so, I can understand from a specific American point of view, the hardcore traditionalists. And then there's this layer of people that they want to make traditional quilts, but we don't have those fabrics anymore, so they buy the reproduction fabrics. Is that, what do you want to do there? So anybody making rules about that, but I liked that letter because I have some of that thought in my own thing, especially when I go to an actual quilt shop and see all the really expensive doodads and gimmicks that they're trying to sell people. You need this $50 ruler, so your seams will be perfectly straight.
Yeah, it's optimizing to the point of...
Yeah, and like we've talked about in several other things, do you want everything to look machine-made, perfectly straight? Maybe that's your art form and that's important to you. Because there was no autism in my grandma's day. Oh, yeah? Well, she sat around cutting up little pieces and sewing them back together, and don't go in her room when she's working.
And it has to be absolutely precise, and it's got mathematical uncanny valley levels of perfection at the end. Yeah, sure, autism's a new invention, sure.
Yeah, and, figuring out the math for a block you've made yourself. Not necessarily that you are autistic, but I think a lot of people that really enjoy precise crafts and hobbies, I'm looking at you, model railroaders.
Oh, yeah.
So from funeral textiles and other blah meow, I want to talk about a famous site that was almost lost. This is from Ismax, and we're talking about the original Needlebar site. Needlebar, all one word. Needlebar and Fiddlebase were like the two big repositories of sewing machine stuff. So this is written by Calvin Armerding, chairman of International Sewing Machine Collectors Society. Over the past few years, I've been saddened to watch a variety of antique and vintage sewing machine collector websites disappear from the internet as the owners passed on without making allowances for the future. When Enrico of Fiddlebase.com fame passed, I quickly reached out to his son to make sure the site was saved. Thankfully, he decided to both keep and upgrade the site as a tribute to his father's work. I then started archiving sites. Nothing I would ever publish so long as the information was available, but just assure that it didn't disappear. So he's archiving, but he's not like republishing if it's still out there. He's just holding on to the info. Okay. Needlebar was one of the biggest sites to first be scaled back due to server issues, and then to disappear when Alan Quinn, the founder of the site, passed. After 2 years of trying to contact Alan and then his descendants, I made the decision to post what I had collected for the sole purpose of saving the years of hard work that he and other contributors had created. Please be aware that at ISMAX, we are a nonprofit run by volunteers on a shoestring budget. We're not making any money from the society. Our brothers! However, if your work is posted here and you want us to take it down, please email me, blah, 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 meow, meow, meow. Meanwhile, this is our attempt to save as much of a comprehensive and valuable resource as we can. Okay. I didn't really know the Needlebar was back. I had kind of just written it off. But in researching rabbit holes for today's episode, it led me to this page. So ISMAX has the Needlebar archives, and this is ismax.net, not ismax.com that got screwed over with advertising. Okay, ismax.net. So there's a whole list. Now, of course, we will put this in the show notes, right to this list of all the topics from Needlebar that we want to talk about. And this is one. This is a piece of sewing stuff that I don't have, I've never had, and I've always been fascinated with because I like to sort things into proper little slots. I'm talking about the Boye commodity cabinet, and that's Boye. You might have seen these. They're a big circle, about 2 feet across, and they have needles and shuttles in them. Okay, we're going to learn about Boye. Boye. A lot of you have seen Boye needle cases. They're the little wooden tubes that have a flange on them and it'll say, and on the very top of the cap will be a number like 10, 9, whatever. And that's because that's what slot it would fit into. Okay, we're gonna talk about this. I just love things that organize.
Organization solutions are like, it's better than looking at fabric.
Even though it wouldn't be so useful, it would be useful to somebody who has collected a lot of machines and there's a lot of needles. But I just want one, just because. Okay, I see them in antique stores all the time. They're usually about $200 around here. Boy, oh boy, a history of the James Boye commodity cabinet, by Claire Sherwell and Bill Grew, with grateful thanks to Chris Gunther and Dave of Suffolk. The original name for the Boye rotary needle case, as used by the inventor James H. Boye, was commodity cabinet rather than needle case. Having a simple-to-use merchant display cabinet was a big selling point for Boye's traveling salesmen. Boye display cases were made in great numbers, with most outlasting the stores in which they were used. Inside the display cases, tubes or packets contained needles, shuttles, bobbins, or other merchandise. These cabinets were designed for ease of use and to prevent the accidental mixing of items. Such cabinets and cases were not available in Europe or Australia. I'm not sure if that's just Boye's or any. Okay. Wooden case. Boye initially designed and patented a commodity cabinet as early as 1903 in Minneapolis, Minnesota. His main idea was to provide an improved needle case and index to assist in providing the correct needle for different American badged sewing machines. At that time, Boye said needles were sold under about 150 different machine names, but it was well known that many of these used the same needle, right? The whole badging thing. Oh, I have a Gavert special. What kind of needle does he use?
Same class 15 as the other one. Next.
In fact, the main machine manufacturers on the market only used about 12 different types of needles. So Boye began with an index of these names and needle types pasted into the lid of a box holding color-coded tubes or boxes. The first box was rectangular with a hinged lid. And there's a picture of it. It's a little, like a briefcase-size box with all these little tubes in it. And the tube holders are like maybe test tube size. And then pasted into the lid is this incredible list of all these different sewing machine names. Remember, there's only really 12, but you've got badged machines, especially 1903. This is the height of badging. Department stores, hardware stores, everybody wants their own sewing machine. Okay. Metal cases. It wasn't until 1906, with the Boye Needle Company established and based in Chicago, Illinois, that James Boye's improvements gathered momentum with the commodity carrier or commodity cabinet. The commodity cabinet became circular on a square base with a drawer intended for holding various small items of merchandise. In other words, the carrier or cabinet could be used for other merchandise such as sewing feet, hand needles, or other small parts. It would be set on a store counter from which to serve customers. Boye needed to make sure that the general hardware or furniture store owner, a non-sewing machine expert, could quickly find the right product for the customer. For this, he devised a numbering system on top of the case, which linked almost any sewing machine name to its proper needle, shuttle, and bobbins, just by turning the arrow on the top.
Wow, he made an analog database,
Yeah,
a searchable
much.
database, but it's all just knobs and dials.
Yeah, if you weren't sure of your sewing machine name or manufacturer, you could look at actual pictures on the shuttle case and compare needle sizes. So illustrations of everything in there. To this end, in December 1906, he patented a chart categorizing full-size illustrations of the standard needle types using the same formation of shank, eye, etc., so that you could place a needle on top to compare.
A taxonomy key.
Check that out. Yeah. So you bring your actual needle in and set it down on this little graphic, and then it'll tell you which Boye number. Okay. Here's little pictures of that, and then there's the tubes. On Boye commodity cabinets, machine names are generally listed in alphabetical order, with the red ones either being the first name of each letter of the alphabet or the most popular names. The others are in black. So like Singer, White, those would be in red.
Easy to find in the mass of the rest, sure.
Machine names with asterisks are also possible rotary models and would take a different needle and no shuttle. So they have a little section for those. And looking at the 1906 patent, James Boye confirms his commodity cabinets were designed to hold various small articles of merchandise to enable them to be readily accessible to the merchant making sales. The cabinet may be put to any desired use with a plurality of chambers for receiving different commodities. This thing kind of reminds me, I have a picture of one. It looks like an old record player. You turn the thing on the top and it goes to the thing, and then you picks out the one. It's just got this cranky thing on the top. An interesting feature of this commodity cabinet is a spool holder attached to the arrow in the center. This would have a spool of thread with a needle attached via a slot underneath so that the salesman could demonstrate the Boye needle threader.
A needle threader, of course. Well, of course. It's not even a gimmick at that point. That's just a given.
You gotta have one, okay? And here's one called the Twin Boye. On top, held in a sliding metal cradle, is a standard early Boye case. Underneath is another Boye case with metal feet to stand on the counter. A first look at the bottom case would give the impression that Boye is now selling sewing machine feet or attachments, when in fact, the pictures of sewing machine feet and shanks are only another way for Boye to get customer to the right product. Okay, it has these kind of feet, so it's got to be that. Also on the bottom case are 145 more names and numbers for sewing machines. These additional listings with names like Druid, Minnehaha, and Stimulator are mostly for machines made by the National Sewing Machine Company. Remember the number one badger?
Right. Yeah, it's like Nationals,
Yeah, they badge everything. That's where they really made their money, was badging for other people. Inside the bottom case are slots for the typical Boye wooden tubes, and in a place where the shuttles would normally be are a number of slots that could hold bobbins or the neat little metal flip-top hand needle cases. The foot and shank pictures were a logical step for Boye to make for product identification, but it never caught on. First, there is the mechanics of using the two cases. It didn't work right. No merchant space was saved because of the way it had to open on the counter. Second, it's most likely that Boye found that the addition of 145 more obscure sewing machine listings wasn't worth the extra effort for the merchant. Eventually, Boye did away with a large wooden cabinet and stuck with the separate, familiar metal commodity case. Okay, then, Boye used an eye-catching design for selling individual treadle belts. It was common practice to hang up treadle belts in stores or leave them on the counter where dust and extra handling could cause them to deteriorate. Boye's method kept the belts coiled compactly, left them protected, and provided useful advertising. The tin measures 4.5 inches round.
Oh, of course.
The small size and scarcity of this item may well indicate it was intended to be disposable. Kind of like an Altoids tin or something.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was getting the picture of. And like, that is totally clever for, both protecting the belt, literally, and for creating more advertising surface.
Exactly. And there's a picture of the thing here, and it has all these neat little pictures and touting the product. Our belt is better. The Boye black belt wears longer. Machine runs lighter. It clings to the pulley. And that's, you really want that. Like if the groove your pulley goes into on your hand wheel is rusty, leave it. That's extra traction.
Sure.
I use fiddle rosin on my belt sometimes if it starts to slip.
Yeah, a little tacky.
Yeah. So it comes and talks about more things that Boye invented. Okay, and then talks about their numbering system. And talks about mistakes that were made on the cabinets with numbers. Okay, so a store person, if you've got a hardware store and your customers have been asking for sewing, do you have any sewing machine needles in here? In 1959, a dispenser with 150 tubes, 9 shuttles, and 48 bobbins cost the merchant $42.48, with a suggested retail price of $73.05. You just buy the whole thing with all the stuff in it, and all you got to do is be able to match up. What's the name of your machine? The stimulator. Other diverse items patented by the prolific inventor James Boye include a nutmeg grater, a golf club, hasp for barn doors, many items for curtains and curtain rods, and he also invented a commodity cabinet to hold those. So his whole deal with, organizing things into little compartments so you could easily find them, I just love that.
he had a vibe. What a interesting range of inventions. He was just one of those guys.
Yeah, you could just picture the deal, right? So I don't know how I was still in the Needlebar archives. Let's look around at some more stuff. Somehow I got on decals, and I got onto a specific decal, the Ottoman Carnation decal, which is, you want to talk about rare machines? Let's talk about something that makes the featherweight look as common as bits on your floor. Yeah. Thread bits. Okay.
Okay.
Featherweights.
Wow. All right.
Featherweights. Featherweights are not rare. Okay. They are
Sure.
not rare. This machine is rare. This machine is the Singer 48K. What the hell is that? The hell's a 48K? I had actually never heard of this one, but I've seen this decal. Okay. The Singer 48K is a high-arm, rectangular-based transverse shuttle machine. The shuttle moves in a straight line from left to right, back and forth, not in an arc circle like we see. So the slide plates actually go out left and right from the needle, not forward and back. The major difference between the Singer 12, which was the famous, everybody's using it, and the Singer 48 is that the 12 is a low-arm machine and the 48K is a high-arm. Think about you're sitting there sewing, you're trying to stuff stuff under the thing. Low arms were like, that was how machines were first made, but later on it's like, hey, you know what? Can we make this part bigger so I can stuff my quilt under there?
Right. Okay. So raising the arm is the improvement.
Yeah. The Singer 12 has a fiddle base, 48K rectangular. Survey respondents they're talking about a survey that they did with all owners of these things. Survey respondents confirmed that the machines all use a hybrid shuttle rather than a boat shuttle, similar to a vibrating shuttle, but with a flat side. The Singer 48K does not use, quote, leftover 12 parts. And then it has some more internal details. Singer added a few innovations to the 48K, namely, instead of a boat shuttle and small-sized bobbin of the Singer 12, a hybrid shuttle taking a VS bobbin was used. No other machine uses a hybrid shuttle. No other Singer machine uses this. This is unique to this machine.
Okay.
Probably doesn't even have a Boye number. The use of a self-setting standard 15x1 needle rather than the old round-shanked 12x1. I actually have some of those. They came with my VS3. I'm like, what the hell kind of needle is this? There's no flat side. Okay, so another new thing. A new upper tension control was positioned to the right of the faceplate. A shuttle eject mechanism was added too. The most commonly found 48K machines have black hand wheels. This was because it was more expensive to nickel plate parts, and customers for this model were unlikely to pay for extras. Another reason for black parts is possibly a hangover from other countries such as France having placed taxes on imports of plated parts, classifying them as luxury goods. And there's the attribution for that here. And it tells where the serial number would be. Now, here's the part I was super interested in. Decals. Singer only produced the Model 48K in Boye and only decorated it with Ottoman Carnation ornamentation and Ottoman Carnation with Indian Star. So there's only 2 variations on the decals here. The Indian subcontinent was an emerging market at the beginning of the 20th century, and using the Indian Star decal was an attempt to stimulate the market there. Special difficulties, such as overcoming caste prejudice, language differences, and limited access to the women, made it a difficult market to infiltrate. Indian Star machines say Singer in different languages on each point of the star. Onya, Sinhalese, Gujarati, Kannada, Hindi, Telugu, Malayalam, and Urdu. And then it says Singer in English right in the middle. But then these what's this, an eight-pointed star.
Wow, so they're kind of going for a Rosetta Stone approach to this logo.
We want to sell these things in India. We're going to put India has a lot of languages. That's just the big ones.
Right. And they're like, look, Singer, here's surely most of the people looking at this are going to recognize at least one of these and be able to understand that this means Singer, this means this machine, ta-da, new markets. But based on how rare this is, I'm guessing that didn't work super well.
Yeah. Tracking down the origin of Ottoman Carnation decals. This design of ornamentation had already been used on Singer's VS1, 12, and 28. Now, wait a minute. The pattern was already 16 years old by the time it was used on the 48K. Okay, so the decal was not invented for the 48K, but it's the only decal the 48K ever had.
Ah, okay.
So the Ottoman Star or Ottoman Star plus the India thing. Okay.
Ottoman Carnation sounds really
Carnation.
That sounds complicated.
Oh, it's beautiful.
Because carnations are a complicated visual, and Ottoman anything is going to be beautifully complicated. So this sounds ornate. I have not seen it yet, but I'm picturing something very ornate and fiddly in its design.
It is. Most all the decals from this period are.
Sure, yeah.
The pattern was already 16 years old by the time it was used on the 48K. It was tried and true and trusted, not at the cutting edge of design for a new model. So then they go into where did this design come from, and talk about the elements of these designs. And okay, now I'm going to go from that page over to sewalot.com, which is Alex Askaroff's page. He's just a little more informal. I really like to read his stuff. Okay, here's Alex. The Singer Model 48 is a bit of an enigma, so I shall tell you what I've learnt over the years about this beauty. As usual, there is no guarantee as to how completely accurate my information is, and there is a raging debate over this unique model, which I find fascinating. I wish more machines caused such controversy.
Drama!
Okay. Singer 48 is one of those rare machines where the facts some internet pages are stating simply don't match up with the figures. So who's wrong? Why, when the figures that some suggest point to Singer producing thousands of these machines, there was a complete lack of advertising in the same years being claimed. We all know Singer were the best advertising sewing machine company in the world, so it simply does not make sense that they not advertise the 48K unless they weren't actually producing it. Some figures suggest in 1 year over 150,000 Singer 48s were made, yet with this supposedly wonderful selling machine, not a jot of advertising. So, he's saying some people have numbers that just don't really line up.
Yeah, you got to have the evidence. I mean, advertising is a pretty solid record of what's going on, as a rule.
Yeah. I am inclined, says Alex, to believe that the 48K was produced intermittently over a 14-year period, and those numbers are not correct. If we are to believe some publicized statistics that have surfaced, a production run of nearly 500,000 was started. But why was production halted, and why do so few turn up? Even in India, they cherish their old machines, and they would be there in abundance if they had ever existed. I have only seen a handful of these superb machines in my lifetime in the trade. And to my knowledge, only about 100 or so are in collectors' hands, making it one of the most sought-after Singer models. Take that, featherweight. After a site claimed the Singer 48K was not so rare, I did my own little survey on eBay and found in a 6-month period, only one came up for auction. Now, if that's not rare, I don't know what is. Compare that to the Singer 27, 17, which is an industrial, or any Singer model of the same vintage. They appear daily. Other models that were not supposed to have been made in the same numbers as the 48 still turn up in droves today. It's easy to pick up diamonds or gold, but you try getting a hold of a Singer 48K in great condition. Go ahead. Do a search. Now, that's what makes the 48K so rare. Most of the machines I have seen were made in 1903, date letter R, and a few from 1904, and a few later in 1909. It is not possible that all the machines that have survived, coincidentally, were all made in the same short period, unless that was the best or main production for the 48K. Okay, let's look at the period. German high-arm machines, remember the whole high-arm thing now, were dominating the European market in the late 1880s, and a large production run would not have been out of the question if only Singer could capture some of its rival German high-arm markets. Singer was an aggressive company and thought nothing of eliminating competition. In fact, it specialized in it.
Yeah, it's kind of like their whole deal.
The idea was great, but no one saw a world war just around the corner. The internet has allowed us to track down the few surviving Singer 48Ks worldwide, but the only hotspot for them seems to be Britain. Not surprising, as they were only manufactured at Boye. Now, I know you're booking your flight as we speak, but carrying back 48Ks in hand luggage is going to make the plane fly crooked. They weigh a ton. In Britain, where they were manufactured, more turn up than anywhere else in the world. They're mainly hand-crank models, though treadles were exported, possibly from the late 1890s. Once again, this is only hearsay, and I believe incorrect, as I have never come across a pre-1900 48K sewing machine. As I've mentioned, the Singer 48K was manufactured in Boye, Clydebank, Scotland. And what a beauty. It ticks all the boxes that collectors like. Pretty, unusual, limited numbers, and sews like a dream.
So this machine really checks all the boxes for being rare and valuable and expensive and ooh la la. This is one of those hits all the boxes machines. This one hits every single kind of criteria to just be the machine.
So if you were out looking around, a little more engineering weird stuff, values are high for the 48K. With some perfect machines fetching great prices among keen collectors. Put a Singer 12K next to a 48K and you see 40 years of sewing machine evolution in action. A great display for any collector. With the internet, some 48s have turned up and have been missed by collectors, but the ones that do get spotted are always snatched up. Grab one if you can. And remember, there is only 3 things worth noting in collecting. Condition, condition, and condition. Remember Graham Forsdyke's scale?
Right.
So that's Alex. Now, how would you spot this machine? Say you go into your antique mall in some little town where they probably don't listen to Used to Sew yet. And you see, the usual collection of old machines. Oh, there's a Wilcox and Gibbs, and there's a Singer 127. Ooh, what's this? The Ottoman Carnation design. We'll put a link for you can see a nice, pretty example of it. Is one of the first things you'll see. If you see the Ottoman Carnation design, it's a high arm machine, and it has a transverse shuttle. So the shuttle plates are left and right instead of forward and back. Buy it.
Just buy it.
Okay, so I went on eBay and I looked. Hey, is there any on there? There's one that sold. Oh, it's simply beautiful. It's got all the stuff. It's got the original dome case. It's all the goodies. And it's from the UK, and it sold for $670 plus $150 shipping.
Yeah, I bet.
Well, that's not quite as much as I expected these things to be $1,000.
Yeah, I was a little bit surprised at how low that was, just from what you've been telling me.
I think somebody missed it because here's a Model 12 in really shitty condition for $260. But this is a beautiful machine. All the decals are red and gold, and some people call it an orange slice because it kind of does look like an orange slice. I ran into a page about the decals and botanically breaking down what all the flowers were and how that fit into the Ottoman Empire and Muslim stuff, but I can't find that right now. But this is like, okay, I think I'd have one of those. The stitch length thing is down on the bed, low bobbin winder, hand crank. Yeah. My cabin's coming right along. The sewing machine display shelves are being designed. So 48K, that's your rare Singer for today. And, please don't take my griping on featherweights as anything other than, oh yeah, everybody likes them. Oh, what about my weird one?
Oh yeah, for sure, for sure.
However, one of the most expensive sewing machines ever is any of the World Fair featherweights. The San Francisco World Fair, Chicago World Fair, these are like 10,000 and up.
Sure, because of event-specific thing, yeah.
Yeah, and I think the Texas one is the most rare, and I think there's only 26 documented examples. And that'd be your little Singer featherweight, and instead of the blue circle around the badge, it's red. I don't care if you can't read the type. Anyone that's got the red boundary on it is up there. Those are the World Fair ones. Okay, refer to the What's It Worth episode. So the Singer 48K, where does that fit? Well, it's got financial value. It's got historical value. It's got decorative value. It's got tool value. Ticks all my boxes. I'm going to keep my eye out for one. I'm going to stay threaded.
And there you have it. Another series of loosely organized tangents around needle storage, rare decal and machine combos, and archived sewing machine informational websites. I decided to do a little deep dive of my own into Ottoman-era flower symbology, and I learned that carnations are a flower that has had a long and storied position in the artistic traditions of the Ottoman world. It first appears in illuminations in the 16th century and is never not being used in profusion up through the 20th century, when the plant at Boye was making these rare Singer 48Ks. The ceramics website that gave me this first pass of information also says that the carnation symbolizes elegance and fine craftsmanship, just on the basis of how much it was used on elegant and finely crafted surfaces, ranging from architecture to clothing. On another website, I read that because of how long carnations bloom, they were a symbol of the power and renewal of life. A third website listed beauty, spring, renewal, and love as meanings. I would hazard a guess that the Singer company was not overly concerned with getting the symbology right and was just enamored with Ottoman carnations as a visual pattern to get lost in. Which is fine. They're gorgeous. All of those links will be in the show notes. Next week, we are talking about the fabric stores that TR remembers shopping at in the 1980s. As a reminder, we are unofficially sponsored by Stagecoach Road Vintage Sewing Machine. You can reach them at srvsew@gmail.com. Follow us on social media and YouTube. You can best support the podcast by sharing it with your friends, and you can even get ad-free episodes by joining our Patreon at patreon.com/used2sew. Thank you for listening to us here at Used to Sew. We always welcome your additions, corrections, and feedback in general. please reach out to us via email at usedtosew@gmail.com. Used to Sew is a production of Fox and Raven Media. For more podcasts from Fox and Raven Media, visit our website at foxandravenmedia.com.